Benny was a little bumblebee, smaller than the others in his hive. While his brothers and sisters flew swiftly through the meadows, collecting nectar with ease, Benny struggled. His wings were weaker, his flight wobbly, and every time he tried to keep up, he fell behind. The other bees often buzzed with laughter. "You'll never be a great worker, Benny," they said. "You're too slow, too clumsy." Benny lowered his antennae but didn't argue. Deep inside, he knew he had to try harder than the others. He wanted to be useful to the hive. He wanted to prove that he could be just as good, if not better. So while the others rested after a long day, Benny practiced. He flapped his wings in place to strengthen them, even when they ached. He hovered over flowers, perfecting his landings, even when he stumbled. He studied the paths of the older bees, learning the best routes, memorizing which flowers had the most nectar. Day after day, he trained. Every time he fell, he got back up. Every time he failed, he tried again. The journey was slow, exhausting, and frustrating, but Benny refused to quit. Then came the storm. One afternoon, dark clouds rolled over the meadow, and the wind howled through the trees. The worker bees had been out collecting nectar when the storm arrived, and as the rain poured down, they struggled to return home. The wind tossed them in every direction, pushing them back, making it impossible to fly straight. Benny had been near the hive when the storm began. He watched as his fellow bees, even the strongest ones, were thrown off course, unable to make it back. They were running out of energy, their tiny bodies soaked with rain. Fear gripped him, but then he remembered all the hours he had spent training. He had strengthened his wings against resistance. He had studied the wind patterns. He had learned how to navigate through difficult conditions. This was his moment. With determination, Benny took off into the storm. The wind pushed against him, but he flapped harder, using the strength he had built. The rain tried to blind him, but he focused, remembering every flower, every tree, every path he had studied. One by one, he reached his struggling hive mates. "Follow me," he buzzed, guiding them along the safest route. When one of the bees was too weak to continue, Benny stayed beside him, encouraging him forward. Against all odds, Benny led the workers back to the hive. When they landed safely, exhausted but unharmed, the queen herself took notice. "You saved them," she said, her voice filled with pride. "You, the smallest and slowest, have shown the greatest strength of all." The other bees, once doubtful of him, now looked at Benny with admiration. They saw not a weak, clumsy bee, but a leader, one who had worked tirelessly to improve himself, who had refused to let failure define him. From that day on, Benny was no longer just another worker bee. He became a guide for the hive, training young bees on how to navigate the wind, how to endure the toughest flights, and how to never, ever give up. To those who feel like they are not strong enough, fast enough, or good enough, remember Benny. Success isn't about being born the best, it's about working harder than anyone else. No matter how many times you fail, no matter how long it takes, if you keep pushing forward, you will find your strength. Keep going. One day, your perseverance will lead you to greatness.